Welcome back to the Celebrity Perspective Texas edition, and joining me today is Larry Hamilton. Larry, great to have you on the show.
Good to be here.
So we're here in your new hotel, the Lorenzo. Tell me a little bit about this new amazing property.
Well, it's not that new, actually. It's an old building that was built in 1971, very art-centric. We've got 237 keys. We've got banquet facilities on the 12th floor. Cool rooms, they're unique.
Yeah, you have a lot of artwork in this facility. Didn't you have artists come in every room and do specific different paintings or sculpture? Or?
Well, the headboards are kind of unique. I don't know any hotel that's ever done this, but there's this local artist, Michael Ledoux, who does resin art. In my apartment, I have a couple of his works, and I thought, those could be headboards, and each headboard could be an individual work of art. So I contracted him to do every headboard in the hotel. So no two rooms are alike. They're all original pieces of art. And we have a lot of local artists. Jim Bowman did the neon sculpture on the 12th floor, and his studio is just catty-corner from us. Rick Maxwell did a wood piece that's on the first floor. Bert Sherbarth is an artist in the Cedars. So
that's
a bunch
awesome.
of local artists.
So you brought in like the local artist community to add, and I think that's really neat because it adds to the vibrancy, but you're also bringing in local, you're having locals work, and I think that means something.
Yeah, we like it. Patronize the locals. On the 12th floor, we have these huge images of eyeballs that with color change lights at night, and Angela Antonson, who's a local photographer, did those.
Those are neat. They're really neat. I actually have a few of Michael Ledoux's pieces in my house too.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, what a coincidence.
I know.
That's great.
10 years ago, I found, I was at a restaurant and he had some work on the wall. And I was like, wow, those are great, and I called him up and we started talking. I was like, hey, I need you to build me a door. And he's like, a door? Excuse me? And that was it. So I've known him ever since, and I love his work.
I love his stuff. It's great.
That's really neat. So y'all just recently opened this property. You're not new to downtown Dallas and to revitalization. So when did all this begin? Because I know that this is a labor of love, but you've also created other buildings too.
Yes. Well, we did the Loft Hotel.
Okay.
Opened it in 2009, and it was the old Santa Fe Terminal Warehouse just across from City Hall.
Okay.
An 8-story warehouse building. It's where Hager Slacks got started back in 1925.
Wow.
Imagine that. He was an interesting story. A Lebanese immigrant who came here with nothing and started the biggest menswear company in America. Started in our Loft Hotel on the 4th floor.
Neat history.
Yes. In 2012, we did the Lone Star Gas Lofts, which is the old Lone Star Gas headquarters, a full city block in downtown.
Wow.
Which we redid into a mixed-use, mostly loft apartments. Davis Building had been the headquarters of Republic National Bank, 1926, classic revival building, beautiful limestone skin, had been abandoned as an office building for about a decade and a half. And we juiced it up as a mixed-use loft apartment project. So we were really at the forefront of bringing residential back to downtown Dallas. There were hardly any residents here when we arrived on the scene, and we've helped to change that.
I think nowadays a lot of people are quick to just tear down.
Yes.
Tear it down, wipe it clean, start over again. Do you live in any of your buildings?
I do.
You do?
Yeah, I live in Dallas Power and Light.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you pick that one?
Well, I don't know. I lived in the Davis briefly, and then when we did the Dallas Power and Light, there was a place that I wanted to do, and it was the second one we did. So I did another apartment, and then I don't like to move, so I've just stayed there. I was toying with the idea of going to Lone Star Gas in one of our penthouses, but then I thought, no, I don't. I like this place. I want to stick here. So,
That's cool.
Yeah.
But you have the opportunity to do whatever you want.
Yes.
But I don't like moving. Moving's a
No.
lot of work.
It's terrible.
I know you have to declutter your life.
Well, it does require you to clean up. That's good, but it's work.
It's work though. I always thought, if you're gonna move, you might as well move across the country instead of moving 1 block down or 2 miles away.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're doing the same amount of work. So that's really neat. So you like the building? Is it part of your personality? Do you feel that building? Does it kind of exude your personality? Do you feel at home there?
The artwork here, nobody's ever done. I don't think there's a hotel in Dallas that has as much artwork going on. There's a whimsical aspect to the design of this place. We try not to take ourselves too seriously.
That's cool.
And have a little fun. And we're willing to risk people kind of laughing at us, but we hope they're laughing with us. So.
Is that your motto too? Just taking, not taking things too serious? Because I think a lot of people, they take themselves too serious in life.
Yeah, have fun in the design. Like the furniture we're sitting on.
Yeah.
It's not the typical hotel furniture.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So very eclectic. We've got, you walk in down in the lobby, and we've got this chandelier with flickering candles going on in
Wow.
it. These images, LED images, screens with flickering candles. We've got the eyeballs all over the place. You walk up the ramp, and we've got TVs flashing with the eyeballs flashing.
So let me ask you, how do you motivate yourself every day? How do you get up out of bed and say, hey, I'm going to do something, I'm going to create something? I mean, where do you get that drive and that energy?
I don't need any motivation, I guess. I don't know. It's great. I feel blessed to love what I do. And this hotel is my canvas. This is how I exercise my creativity. And so it's like an artist gets a thrill out of doing a painting. I get a thrill out of a development project. And
That's cool.
so I enjoy doing it. So it's fun. There are challenges, obviously. Everybody wants to kind of get in your way. So, and so you encounter numerous obstacles but that's why not everybody's doing it. It's hard to do.
I think a lot of times people get really close to what they're going to do and then they back out because it gets so stressful or the tide seems to be against them, or like you were saying, it seems like people keep pushing against you sometimes. What would be some words of advice that you would tell them how to stick in it?
Well, you need to be persistent. And I think the thing that always guided me is if I couldn't understand why someone didn't want to do what it is that I needed them to do, then I tended to try to be persistent. And if I could understand it and it made sense to me, then I'd back off. And it's an art. I don't know how to explain that to anybody, but there's times to back off, to, withdraw a little bit. And then there's times when, despite everybody pushing you to back off, you've got to stick to your guns. And I don't know, it's kind of an art, don't you think?
I think it is, and I think it's a way of, I think you have to feel it. And I think sometimes we get sidetracked by a lot of noise in our life.
We have this term now, disruptors, and these disruptors, I'm sure, the Steve Jobs of the world that make these huge changes, that influence society. And I can't imagine the number of people who've told them they were crazy, that they couldn't do that. And they are persistent and just stick in there, with their beliefs, and somehow they prevail.
That's awesome. Did it fuel you by having the naysayers? Because sometimes people say it fuels them to some degree.
Yeah, well, it's a numbers game. You gotta, you need to get no's in order to finally get to a yes. And so, you just keep going.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I've always seen leaders, like true leaders, it's like you kind of get past that. And I think also you have to have that belief in yourself. Have you always had a solid belief in yourself?
I think so. Yes.
That's cool. You know, I think that's what really helps people.
Yes.
And it's hard to find that though, because you have to like look within yourself and say, hey, I might not do everything perfectly right, but you know, I believe in the way I'm doing it and I'm learning. Do you find yourself learning on a daily basis new things?
Oh, sure. And you make mistakes, but don't dwell on them. You know, just move on. Try to correct the mistakes. Don't stick with them. You know, reverse yourself. Be willing to reconcile yourself to that.
I like that. I like that. What are some things in the morning? Do you have like a morning routine or anything that really just gets you in the groove as far as, hey, I'm here, I got to take care of this and that? Because I think sometimes people lose themselves in all the responsibilities, the time, and they don't really know. Is there something that you do that kind of helps you? Is it meditation or what is that really helps focus your energies on a daily basis?
I wake up, I still subscribe to printed newspapers. I get the Wall Street Journal and the Dallas Morning News, and I start reading those. I'm watching the TV, doing the Sudoku.
That's awesome.
I do that. And then I have breakfast, head to the office, check my calendar, look at the calendar, kind of make some notes on what I want to get accomplished that day.
Nice.
And have a couple. If I can knock off 2 or 3 things, that's good.
That's awesome. Well, now is the time that you and I are going to switch seats, and you're going to sit in my seat, and I'm going to sit in the hot seat, the hot couch, and you can actually ask me questions. So Larry's going to be asking me questions about my life. So here we go. Go this way. Woo! Nice. Ready? Okay.
Okay, so has anybody else done the switcheroo like this?
Yeah.
Did you innovate this?
Yeah, it's kind of the twist in the show.
But I mean, no other interviewer does such a thing.
No.
How did you come up with that?
It was kind of just this idea. It was kind of like, what's different in an interview situation? Because, you know, normally it's just the one way, and then everybody's like, okay, bye, have a good one. But I think that this adds because it gives another dimension to it. Because I think when you're asking me questions, it kind of coincides with both of our lives, and I've just never seen anybody do it before.
That's cool. So when did you even start doing interviews at all?
Well, my radio show, so I have a syndicated radio show called Live Your True Life Perspectives, and that started back on May 5th, Cinco de Mayo 2012. And so I started interviewing people on the show, and I'd find, you know, some random folks that I wanted to interview. And then fast forward to like 2 years ago, I came up with a concept called the Celebrity Perspective. And I had that once a week on the radio, and so I'd interview like, you know, anybody from like Ed Asner to whoever, you know, and we would have really great interview topics. But I really thought if you could see it, it would be even that much better. And so that's how the show kind of was born. I was like, let's do it on TV. Let's come up with this concept and let's do the switch. Because the switch was always kind of there already without even being talked about. Because it's funny how people ask you questions anyway, you know? And so it's like, why don't we make this more of an intricate thing? Because we're highlighting Texas natives, folks that are doing some amazing stuff in Texas. And I think this is what people want to see.
So did you think of it before you actually did it, or did you think of it on the spur of the moment and actually do it?
I thought about it ahead of time, and I was like, what would make this really interesting? You know, because there's so many interview shows. How do you take that and make it really, really, really fun? And that's when it came up with. I was like, oh, this is a good idea. And people were like, this is a great idea, let's do it. And everybody at first was, what? You want me to do what? You want me to switch seats with you? And then it always seems to be a really good part of the show. So
is there somebody that you would like to interview that's too important that you can't get to?
I hope not.
No?
I hope not. I think it's all about mind and direction, and you know, it's like when you think about it, like when I wanted to interview you, you just put that thought out there and you focus on it and you reach out and you make it happen. And I mean, there might be some people that say, no, I don't want anything to do with the show, but I think for the most part, it's about authentic people doing authentic stuff. And I think authentic people see other authentic people and they go, yeah, this is cool, I want to be a part of it. You know?
What would you ask the Pope?
Oh, wow. Wow, you got me on that one.
Oh, sorry.
You know,
I didn't mean to
I
stop
would probably ask him, you know, how did he ever think he was going to be there? Did he ever think that he was going to be in that position running a sovereign country of its own, and being in the highest position in the world of Catholicism, pretty much in this world too.
Yeah.
Be interesting. Did he ever think that coming from the means that he came from?
Yes. So have you had an interview that went bad?
It kind of depends on how you define bad. The only interview that I had a problem with is there was a guy that was a psychic that I had on my show, and he had been on Coast to Coast, and he had been on Oprah Winfrey, but he just kept pushing his book. Love the guy, seems like a nice guy, but he wouldn't tell my listeners anything of value, but he would keep them up to like one point and get right next to something really good and juicy, and then you'd be like, but if you want to know more, you need to buy my book. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. You can't do that to people. You gotta give them something, you can't. And so I would think that would be the worst interview.
So segueing from being a counselor to being a media person, how did that ever come about?
It's interesting. It seems so natural, because a good interview person is somebody that understands people. And it's not about their own personal agenda or how they feel or wanting to dig up whatever dirt or whatever it is. It's about finding that authentic state of mind and finding what really connects on a personal human level. And if you just listen, you'll get it. And I think as a psychologist and as a therapist, most of your job is listening.
When you get up in the morning, how do you motivate yourself?
I actually do a meditation. So before I actually get out of bed, I visualize my day. So like before I came here, so there I was in bed for about 5 minutes. I visualized, driving here, getting the equipment out, setting up, sitting in these seats, and I visualize that kind of stuff because I think if you've already seen it happen, you can make it happen. You can make it happen, right? It's almost like playing golf, right? When you're teeing off and you actually see the ball going into the hole, you have a better chance of probably shooting it in the right direction than if you just kind of go willy-nilly into it. So I kind of just do a lot of thought and then kind of really think about it from an emotional standpoint.
So your celebrity interviews are with people who are ostensibly successful. Your counseling is with people who have problems, mostly? Is it?
I think most people have. I think all of us have something that we want to work on.
Yes.
Something we just can't get right. Something that's been ailing us for a long time. Something that's gotten in the way of our purpose, gotten in the way of our happiness to some degree.
So there's a juxtaposition. There's a point counterpoint. Is that helpful?
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even in the interviews too, most everybody's gone through something. They had adversity, and they never thought they were going to be a success. And so everybody's felt that, especially even the extremely famous. There was some point where they felt that pushback, and it scared them, or it got them derailed, or they kind of lost their way, and then they had to kind of get back on and bring it back in and wheel it back in and get it together. And I think it's amazing, especially when you hear some of those stories.
So have you ever had a counseling client that you've decided was hopeless, or at least you couldn't help them and fired them, or has that ever happened?
Good question. I have fired, I've actually fired 2 clients, and the reason why I fired them is they would never do the homework. Never do it. I asked one, I said, I need you to take control of your life, and that begins by cleaning your house and doing this and doing that. And I gave them a whole list of things to do. And I said, but your house is a disaster. I went over there. It was a complete disaster. And I said, but you need to start taking ownership and responsibility of your life. And so the next week he comes into the office and he is grinning from ear to ear and he's very proud of himself. And I'm like, this is awesome. I'm so proud of you. He goes, yeah, the house is clean. Everything's done. I go, how long did it take you? He goes, oh, it took the 3 housekeepers 5 hours. And I said, I didn't ask you to hire people. I wanted you to do it on your own. He goes, but if you have money and you can hire people, why wouldn't you do that? I said, this is about your responsibility. And so after a couple other incidents, I said, you're fired. Can't do it anymore.
No kidding.
Yeah, because he wouldn't take responsibility. So that was the thing. It's like he wouldn't do anything for himself. And it's fine, you can hire people, but you really got to start the wheel in motion. And I think you got to learn how to vacuum and wash clothes and sweep and clean the toilets. And I think that's part of life. And I think that when you're cool with doing that, I think it gives you more humanity, but it makes you more authentic and real.
Admiral McRaven now has just written a book called Make Your Bed, and it's on this theme of You start off, you make your bed.
Yeah.
You know, and you got to discipline yourself. Interesting.
That's cool. I make my bed every morning too.
Yeah,
I make it. It's like military style.
I do that.
Stuff.
I can't leave without it being made.
Me neither. I don't want to. It looks like a mess.
Yeah.
And it's also an easier way to get back in if you don't make it.
Yeah. Amazon is looking for a second headquarters. What do you think about Dallas for a possibility for their second headquarters?
I think it's perfect.
You do?
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to bring a lot of people down here. It's going to create a lot more jobs. And I think it's going to increase the value of our real estate even more. And that's a good thing. Can't ever argue with those things. And I think we need it. And I think it would even add to the quality of life here too.
That'd be the greatest trophy Dallas ever got, I would think.
Yeah. I buy everything from Amazon.
You do?
Oh, yeah.
I've never bought anything from Amazon.
Yeah.
And they're closing stores right and left.
Oh,
What do you think of that?
Oh, you mean the brick and mortar stores?
Yeah,
that are
all the,
closing?
yeah.
You know, the thing about the brick and mortars closing is that I think that some of them can actually stay open if they make it more of an experience. You know, I come in there and I experience something, so maybe I could go buy it on Amazon like that, but I would not ever buy clothes online because you know they're not going to fit. So you definitely want to do that, but I think if you had like an overall experience, like when you came in and you could maybe test drive something, you know, like whether it's a new vacuum or whatever you're looking for, or maybe they're making you espresso there, or maybe there's a little more discounts involved. You know, you go in and you get a better discount by going into the store, and they make it more of an experience than just buying stuff. And I think that's where they would stay open and definitely could to have longevity.
So you asked me earlier about bumps in the road, you know, persistence and all that. How do you get motivated to be persistent, or what kind of bumps do you experience?
Wow, yeah, sometimes some days are better than others in that situation. You know, some days you go, wow, I'm paying the dues out the butt, you know? And other days you say, wow, this is really great. I realized that nothing can be perfect, and there's got to be kind of an ebb and flow. And I think that when there's certain things that happen, you learn from it, and you got to kind of step back and look at it from a different perspective. Because if we look at it like, oh, woe is me, why even get up and do anything different? But I think it means that you're getting closer to something. You know, it's like looking for buried treasure. You're going to have to go off on different paths. You're going to get lost. You're probably going to get, you know, it's going to be dark. It's going to be scary. But eventually you're going to come out and you're going to be like, wow, I'm right here. And I think a lot of people stop right before they find it.
So how can a counselor help them? Do you think that's innate, or it's something that can be learned?
I think it's something to be learned because I think that we go through cycles, right? So if your parents didn't think that that existed, and that, you know, dreams and purpose and things like that don't come together, and that you just have to kind of just, you know, take your lumps and go through it, that's what you're taught as a kid. And I understand because people had hard times, but that's a cycle, and we can break that cycle. And as long as you believe something, and I know that sounds kind of corny, but if you believe it, you can achieve it. And if you know it exists, you can find it. And I think all you have to do is kind of peel back some layers of cycles or explanations that people have in their life, and short-sightedness that they were probably prescribed by their parents, not the parents being bad parents, it's just all they knew. And so if you sit there and say, hey, you do have the ability to do this and that, and let's back it up and let's listen to what's going on in your head. What are the negative thought connotations that's going on in your head? Let's get rid of those, and let's replace it with these positive affirmations that can really get you to say, hey, you know what, I am a good person, and I am smart, and I can achieve this. And I think a lot of times we're going through life saying, I'm never going to achieve this, and I'm never going to do this, and it's never going to happen for me. And if you're thinking that all the time, well, that's what your life is. You're going to follow that prescription to the T.
Do you help people on parenting?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Yeah. Couples counseling? You
Do
that?
couples counseling
You do
too?
that? Yeah. Have you ever counseled any couple? You guys need to split. Has that ever happened?
Y'all just got to get rid of this. This isn't working. No, but I have found sometimes that people are staying in relationships because they think that they have to, because it would break the other person's heart, or it would be awful to them, and they're not thinking through it clearly to realize that, well, if they're not being honest with themselves and they're not being honest in the relationship, it's probably not working. You need to step back and let everybody have the life that they want in an honest environment. And when you're real and you're authentic and you put it on the table and you say, hey, I love you and I care about you, but this is the situation, I think things go far, and you can at least create a friendship You know, it doesn't have to be a marriage, you know, because I think people are in your life for different reasons, and sometimes we miscalculate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, have you had successes where couples have graduated and everything has been hunky-dory?
I've had some amazing couples do some amazing things. Yeah,
Oh, that's
because
good.
you know they get it. They go, "Oh my gosh, I can do this. I can do that." And the good thing is that when you're dealing with a therapist that's been married for almost 15 years and has gone through the pitfalls, the ups and downs of marriage, I can help people understand what's normal. Because they go into this bill of goods. You know, you look at TV and you see this and you see that and you go, oh, that's what a couple's supposed to be. Or you look at reality shows sometimes and you see all this drama, you know, and they think that that's what you're supposed to have too. And it's like, let's pull all the crap away and let's really talk about what a successful relationship is. And there's no cookie cutter definition for it. And I think some couples say, well, I'm not having sex 3 times a day, or you know, some couples come up with whatever and they think, well, our marriage is failing, you know, and it's like, well, it's not really about that, but let's figure out what needs to be worked on, what can be worked on, and don't sit there and try to fill the concept of, oh, well, my marriage doesn't fall into this category, so it's not good.
So, how often is sex the problem?
A lot.
It is? They say that money.
Oh, money's first.
Money is first?
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Because you know, if you are really struggling, then every single day is a struggle. So if you're trying to pay these bills and do all this, that's at the top. And so there's a lot of stress that goes with money, you know. But the sex component is another thing too. And are you not having sex because there's a respect situation? Are you not having sex because it's a personal thing? I mean, what is the reason for that? You know, have you lost interest? You know, some people, it's like once they catch it, it's almost like the fishing concept. You know, when they catch it, they're ready to release it. You know, I'm done. You know, it's like, well, now we need to figure out how to create a relationship around this. You know, and they're like, well, I don't know how to do it. Well, how long is the longest relationship you've had? 10 months, and now you've been married for 6 years? Well, this is the longest relationship you ever had. You've never gone through this period of a relationship. So it's normal to feel like, I'm bored. You know, what do you do next? And you're like, well, now we got to figure out all the other stuff that you haven't taken time to learn about that person.
So is it more often the woman withholding the sex or the man?
Interesting. It can be both. It can be both. But
Equal?
normally you see more women.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think more men are just like, come on, give me some. I'm here for God's sakes. So yeah, it's more of the women because I think it's a mental thing. You know, whatever that is. And there's 15, 20 different directions I could take on that. But yeah, it's kind of interesting though. But when you get them in the same room together, you know, they can't hide. They've got to talk to one another, and it's real, you know. And then you got to just it's the treehouse of trust. You got to put it out there.
So did you think that you were going to be a counselor ever when you were a little girl?
Good question. I think at one point I thought I was going to play, you know, fast pitch softball professionally, but
Wow.
yeah, it was a dream of a kid. I actually always knew I was going to be in this type of profession because I used to write, and then I was in debate, and I was 7th in the nation in debate.
Whoa.
Yeah, so then I was going to be this politician, and one day I was in D.C. and I met some folks, and they had a van in Lafayette Park, and they were like, "You can't do this, man. You gotta be real." And I was thinking, okay. So it kind of diverted me, and I realized more people are going to want to know more about their life and how to make it work. And so that's when I started kind of shuffling back and realizing I understand the human condition, so why don't I kind of strengthen my life, surround my life with that, and that's where it went.
Well, thank you for being such a great interviewee.
Thank you. I've had an awesome time. I had an
too.
awesome time. And I look forward to spending more time with you, and I look forward to spending more time in this hotel as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Larry.
My pleasure.
Another great episode of the Celebrity Perspective, Texas edition with Larry Hamilton, an amazing person doing awesome stuff here in the state of Texas. We have more people coming on the show who are legendary to the state of Texas that you're going to be very interested in hearing their background, how they go through life, how they motivate themselves, and why they do what they do. Stay tuned, and don't forget to live your true life. What a great interview with Larry today. One of the takeaways that I took from it is that we need to all be original thinkers. We need to think outside the box. We need to allow our unique qualities to flow and to also be shown. You know, back in the day, I used to kind of hide those unique qualities. I wanted to blend in, get in where you fit in, right? I didn't realize, though, that I was hiding who I am as a person. And I think sometimes we do that to fit in, and sometimes we do that because we want everybody to like us. But does it matter if everybody likes us? I don't think so. And I think that if we're a real original person, not everybody's gonna like us anyway. So how do we begin to show who we are all the time and not feel weird about it? Well, I think you gotta be honest with yourself. I had to be honest with me. I realized that, well, I didn't have that high-pitched cheerleader voice. I realized that I didn't have the same long flowing hair as all the other people, and I realized that my thoughts were kind of funny. I had a unique sense of humor, and some of the things that I thought were funny, probably other people don't. And so I used to hold back. I wouldn't make jokes like I do. And now I'm just me, authentically me. And I feel good about it. I feel good in my own skin, but it took me a long time to accept who I was. Different, unique, independent, sometimes crazy, but cool. And so some things that you can do today, for the next couple of weeks, for the next year, for your lifetime even, is to begin to recognize those unique qualities about you that you tend to hide, that you tend to kind of push out of the way because you want to fit in. What are those qualities? And why don't you embrace them instead of hate on them? You know, because it's interesting, when we become uniquely who we are, comfortable in our own skin, happy with ourselves, our entire life begins to change for the better. And people begin to see us and they also feel our authenticity. Haven't you been around somebody that wasn't very authentic? Somebody that was, well, some people call it putting on airs or acting like somebody else or trying to fit in. And didn't they feel a little, well, maybe not so truthful or honest? Now, was it that they weren't telling the truth, or were they just not being who they truly are? And I think that it radiates from us in a good or maybe not so good way when we're not being who we truly are. So what are some of the things that you can begin to do today to be extremely you? One of the things that I did is I realized that the longer I hid who I am, the longer I wouldn't actually understand my true life calling. I also wouldn't meet some amazing people that would come into my life because they realize that I'm genuine. Maybe my sense of humor is kind of odd sometimes, and maybe people might roll their eyes instead of laugh, but do I care? Not really. But the cool thing is that they realize I'm being honest and truthful and direct in who I am. And so I ask you to give that to society, give that to the world, because that's what people want to see. They want to see who you are, not with all the makeup and everything else on, just being you. And even if you have all the makeup on, feeling good about yourself and letting your true self radiate outward, because that's what people care about. And eventually, as you do that and it becomes practice makes perfect, you begin to see who you truly are, embrace yourself, which is so cool, feel good about yourself, and you're authentically being you. Nothing to hide, no shame, just being awesome, authentic, and truthfully you. I hope that you've taken some stuff away from this great interview as well. We got a great show for you next. And don't forget to keep living your true life.